Hey everybody, welcome to Dad's on the Game. Dad's still in the game. Man, we are rusty. We haven't been here for a while. I'm the dad, Joel, and he is
Luke, the son.
And what are we talking about this week, Luke?
Ticket to Ride and I guess the 1910 USA expansion.
Yep. Ticket to Ride, our copy is worn. I mean, you can see the wear marks on it, and the box is just beat up. And we have the 1.1 million games sold version. It's now the 3 million games sold version. So, in excess of 3 million copies of this game sold. So it's pretty popular. This game is available about anywhere. So this might draw in a different crowd than we normally get. We are Luke and Joel, and we do reviews, and this is about our 25th review probably. We've been off for a couple months, so we're a little rusty, but we talk about games, and we talk about the family-friendly nature of them, if it's something that we think would be good for families, and how it fits our family, personally. So, a couple disclaimers before we get started. Obviously, reviewers express their opinions, and I think we're going to try and change our format a little bit to not say a game's good or bad, but rather to say, this is what I enjoyed about the game, and this is the kind of things that you might enjoy about this game. If it's a fit for you or not is up to you to decide. We also might say the things we didn't like about it much. But for us to make a recommendation or say something's good or bad is very subjective, and I'm sure that every game out there on Board Game Geek has somebody who loves it, even the games that are rated in the 5,000s. Because a game wouldn't get created if somebody didn't love it. There's a lot of time spent on creating games and publishing games, so somebody along the way thought it was a good game, even if most people don't. So I'm not going to tell you guys if I think a game's awesome or not. I'm going to tell you what the strengths are, where I didn't think it was that strong at, and then let you make the decision on if you think it's right for you or not. So Ticket to Ride. Luke, tell us a little about Ticket to Ride.
What you're doing on it is you're getting destination cards, and those destination cards have 2 cities on them. And those 2 cities, you have to connect them, and that's how you earn points.
Our copy's been sitting in the back seat of our car since Christmas, so it's kind of a wreck. But I'm going to show you real fast. The first thing is the map and the board, and this is pretty big. But here's the map and the board. This is the original version. There's some other variants that we can talk about at the end of the video, or other maps or versions of the game. But this is the original United States, continental United States map. And everyone gets a color of trains. So you can be the black trains, I guess, for this. And I'll be the red trains. Those should stick out nice against the background, so you guys can see what's going on. And Luke kind of mentioned this already, that you start off with getting 2 tickets that say, hey, here's where you're trying to get to. So let's see if I can find those. Okay, this is just a mess. This is what happens when your games shuffle around in the back seat of your car for a while.
Well, at least we don't have to shuffle this time.
Yeah, that's very disappointing. So, oh man, where are the destination tickets? Are they mixed in here somewhere? Probably. Yes, they are. Okay, so here's some examples of some tickets. Some destinations. I'm going to put these back in here because we're going to talk about something else.
So I'm assuming we're going to take a picture of some destination tickets?
Yeah, I'll put a picture up of what these look like, but Luke's going to pretend like, for the sake of this, that he's doing Denver to Pittsburgh. I'm doing Sault Ste. Marie to Oklahoma City, and then you always are going to have at least 2 routes because you start off with 3 routes. Then you pick 2 of those 3 that you're going to try and complete. And so, let's back up here a minute here. The way how you win the game is to get the most points. You get points by completing these tickets. They have a point value on there, on the bottom. And again, I'll put a picture up. You'll see, though, in the bottom right-hand corner where it shows a point value. This one's worth 9 points. This is worth 11. They go up to about 20 points, and as few as maybe, on this version, I think maybe 5 or 6. So they're worth more points depending on the difficulty they are to complete and the length. So Sault Ste. Marie to Oklahoma City, which is right here to right here. So the nice thing for my route, this is actually a very easy route to complete. Because as you look at the map, there's all these different colored lines that connect different cities. Luke has Denver over here to Pittsburgh. So he's got a line that's going like this. So if the 2 of us were playing this game, his route's worth 11 points because it's a little longer. But then also his is specifically colored. And, oh man, I got this thing where I need to sneeze and it's not coming. Okay, it's gone. So So these are specifically colored for, like, he has to use a certain card to get through these routes. This is where I'm going to introduce the 1910 expansion. Because I would say right now, these little cards right here, to shuffle them as much as you have to shuffle them, and to hold them in your hands, it's like this versus this. So the standard size cards are just much easier to look at and play with, and just see what's on the table and things like that. So I think you can get the 1910 expansion for about $10. And you can get, and that's online. It's, I think, MSRP of 20. And this game MSRP is for, like, I think about $40, but you can get it online for about 32. So instead of paying $50 to buy this at a big chain store and paying MSRP, I would suggest using your savings to bundle it up with 1910, and you'll share shipping on it, and it'll cost less than the MSRP at a big store. And you'll get the game within 2-3 days. They're really fast at shipping. We don't have an endorsement deal with anybody, but I use Miniature Market typically. They have free shipping at $100 too. So at any rate, so yeah, I would suggest buying it online and getting 1910 with it. It's funny that I just said I'm not going to do, like, reviews telling you what to do, but I mean, that's just common sense to me, because I just think the little cards in your hands are they're tough. So
should we get back to the subject?
Yes, we should. That's Luke's role in this whole thing. So okay, we've talked about how you win and how you complete routes, kind of. The other thing, too, is if I lay these 4 trains down, if you look here, there's a scoring key. It says if I lay 4 trains, I get 7 points. So these 4 trains, if you complete it, or these 4 trains right here, if you completed them, you would get 7 points. So he would move his marker up 7 points on the score tracker, wherever that would be right here, 7 points, and work his way around as he completed these routes. That's one way to get points. Getting the cards completed is one other way, and just holding this little tiny card in my hand is just annoying. I love the 1910 thing. I really think it's worth getting. Personal opinion. I mean, try the game out first, maybe. I don't know, whatever. But the little itty bitty cards here are telling me I get 9 points if I complete my route. So that's the second way to get points. A third way to do it is at the end of the game, we're going to calculate who has the longest train. So, I mean, let's say Luke had this route here from Pittsburgh to Denver, and then he continued it all the way around and all the way up here, and maybe completed a few more tickets. He ended up with a score of like 135 points probably. But at the end of the game, if you have the longest train, what happens?
You get a certain amount of points.
A 10-point bonus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
For having the longest train, you get a 10-point bonus.
Now, can I say something real quick?
Nope. Yep.
Okay. We never mentioned the gray routes. That means you can just do anything. And also you may run into a golden...
you can just put down a white, and then a black, and a green. No, that's not true. When he says you can do anything, he means any color will work there. So there's 6 spots here. So you can lay down 6 of any training cards. But we need to introduce training cards before that really makes any sense to you, probably. So I'm going to use these a little bit bigger that are easier to shuffle cards. I'm going to shuffle them once here, because I don't think they're mixed up very well. I think they're all by book, kind of. So give them a quick shuffle here. And we start the game off with 4 cards, train cards. So I'm going to give Luke 4, and I'm going to take these 4. And then there's always a bank of blind cards that you can draw from, and then there's also 5 cards out that you can pick from. So these 5 cards right here would be the ones we can pick from. And we know where Luke and I are going, so we're going to see what makes sense. Yeah, I needed to shuffle those a little more. Luke needs to get either pink, blue, black, or orange. So he's got some cards in his hand there, and he's going to make a decision on what he wants to do. As far as on his turn, he has 3 choices. Now, if he has the cards required to complete a route here, like these 4 pinks right here, or purples, it's disputed what color that is. If he had the cards to lay that down, what he needs is this purple color here, pink color, whatever you want to call it color. He would need 4 of these cards in his hand, and then he would lay down the set of 4 of these. And because he laid down 4 of that pink color, he could claim a route that was 4 pink long. So if he did that, go ahead and pretend like you got that 4 pink route there.
I would use these nice trains, and no, it does not matter what color trains are down. That just is claiming what player has it.
One thing people have a hard time wrapping their head around, first time they play this game, is they'll see the black train routes here, and they like, I'm the black train, so I must have to put mine on the black and flip the black spots. The colors coordinate to the cards, not to the actual little plastic train models. So the plastic train models are signifying a player, not a card or a route type. So I'm going to show you my hand here, my 4 cards a little more carefully. I got 2 of these cards, which are like kind of rainbow colored and have every symbol on them. And those are wild cards, essentially. They are locomotives. They allow me to use this as any color. And then I have a red card and a black card. So if I wanted to, I could find this little 3 route right here of red and use these 2 wild cards and this red one to put on this little 3 route here. It's probably not a wise move, especially with the cards that are out right now. So on my turn, I can either do the laying down of trains by playing down cards, or I can pick out 2 of these cards here. So because I don't have any cards in my hand, and I want to build my hand up before I do anything else, I probably would pick 2 cards. So I'm going to take these 2 cards here. And actually, I would take them one at a time, and as soon as I took one, another one would flip out so I could see what else is coming up. Now, the other thing that's kind of unique to this game is that when there's a locomotive out, tell them about locomotives being out.
Locomotives, you can only take 1 card when you take a locomotive. So It's as if the locomotive is some big train engine that is expensive.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you can only take the 1 card that turn. Normally, you take 2 cards of your choosing from either the blind pile or the 5 that are up. But if there's a locomotive up, you only can take that locomotive on your first grab. Now, if I took this pink card first and then flipped this one over and a locomotive came out, I can't take it because I already took 1 card.
That was weird timing.
Yeah, I set that up.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. But if these were the cards that were out, Luke could take the locomotive with his first draw, and then he's done. You can't take any more cards. Okay, so you draw cards. The other thing, too, is if you draw from the blind pile and you draw a locomotive on your first draw, so, I mean, this card's blind here, and I'm drawing from the blind pile, and I get the locomotive, I'm allowed to draw a second card. The only way you can draw a second card if you get a locomotive is if you draw it blindly. So, but the game goes on, and Luke and I keep putting more trains on here, and the game ends when we only have 2 of these little plastic train models left out of all of our trains. And at that point, everyone gets 1 more turn, and we call it quits. We count up the points that we have for laying our trains down here. We count up our routes that we completed, and then someone gets a 10-point bonus for having the longest train. One other rule of note is if you don't complete a route, you get negative whatever the point value is. So if I didn't get from Pittsburgh to Denver, I would get negative 11 points at the end of the game. So real quick summary again, to just kind of make everything a little more compact. On your turn, the objective is to kind of complete routes, get the most points. Some people actually can get points by just getting these longer routes that are worth a lot of points. So a 6 route here is worth 15 points. Some people ignore their routes mostly and just fill up the longer routes and go for the big point routes and don't worry about the connectivity of a train, because it does 2 things. It blocks other people from getting those longer routes, but then also it's just a good way to get points. But at any rate, that was a little like extra bonus feature there. We try and complete our tickets in order to get our points on the tickets, and we also get points from laying down trains. On our turn, we have 3 choices. We can either draw cards here, draw 2 or 1 if it's a locomotive, take cards from our hand from cards that we've collected and put them down on the table. Or the 3rd one that we haven't really talked about is these tickets that we got at the beginning of the game. You can draw 3 of them, 3 destination tickets, and keep at least 1. So if you complete your destinations early in the game, you have half a bag of trains left, you may want to do that and say, you know what, I'm going to complete some more tickets because I think I can get more points that way. What am I missing, Luke?
Not much. I mean, maybe the expansions.
Yeah.
Basically, what it comes down to is there are sometimes different maps, some trolleys, which you have to use locomotives on the things that have a locomotive on them. Yeah,
and I think I made a dumb joke about the grays real fast, but in order to complete a gray route, you need to have 6 matching trains of any color. So, I mean, like, you could have 6 whites, 6 blacks, 6 pink, 6 red, but you can complete the 6 route by having 6 matching trains, and you can use wilds as well to complete that too, mixed in. So, this game's not really that complex. The directions are pretty well written, and before we spend any more time on explaining the rules, odds are you have some exposure to this game, especially if you're coming to us from Board Game Geek. If you don't have exposure to it and you want to learn more on how to play it, the rules are very easy. They're only like 2 pages, and this just kind of give you a little overview. So now, typically in our videos, we give an overview and then we give our thoughts on it. Usually it's a little more broken up too when we're in our basement doing them, but man, it's freezing cold in our basement right now because there's like a negative 15 wind chill outside or something the last few days. So actually negative 15 temperature, negative 40 wind chills. So hooray for the polar vortex. So we're upstairs in the bad audio and echoey room with bad lighting to show you this. But this is the part where we normally do our thoughts on the game. So I'm going to let Luke go ahead and start first. What are your thoughts on it?
I really like the old-timey map. You can kind of see some steampunk things all around it.
Yeah, like old turn-of-the-century technology.
I really like how it works out, just because, like, you can kind of go gotcha with the blocking part. Like, if somebody was trying to go from Atlanta to... I can't read that upside down, sorry.
Yeah, Helena?
Somebody might figure it out and go right there, so they have to take the long way.
So like if somebody laid tracks here and then laid tracks here and here, like you can kind of assume they're going to try and connect there so you can block them. I mean, that's the kind of things that you can do. That gotcha thing you're talking about there.
It's a really fun game. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's really all range, unless you're a really, really hardcore gamer. Because, like, you can just bring it around, teach somebody how to play, and, yeah.
Yeah, this is more of what we would call a gateway game, in that someone doesn't need to have any experience with any board games at all. I mean, you can teach this to anybody, practically. Luke started playing this when he was probably 6, and it wasn't a problem. So, I mean, if you know your colors and how to count, and, I mean, like, understand the ideas of taking turns and things, it can be taught to people practically. So it's one of the first games you probably taught to your children. That's more advanced, like a hobbyist type game. That said, I mean, it can be a little tricky for people to pick it up the first few times they play, or first couple rounds even. It's a wildly successful game. There's been several million copies sold. We have the 1.1 million edition, like I said. There's a 3 million edition out now. So a lot of copies of this game are sold. And this has actually become, my wife kind of like doesn't agree with me on this totally, but like if I have a friend or someone who's getting married, I buy this as like their like universal wedding present they get, because I think it's like been really good for my wife and I's marriage too, to be able to just like on occasion just sit down and play a game and take it to ride, because it's relaxing, you're doing something together. That's what games can do. I mean, bring families together. So this is one of those games that isn't real heavy in thinking. It's just an unwinding, relaxing game. That said, you can be very strategic with it if you want to, and do blocking and do a lot of gamesmanship. This game, very relaxing, and it basically is just an easy laid-back game to play. There's several variants of it that are out there. Like I have the 1910 expansion that I just stole the cards out of for this example. But the 1910 expansion has like a big cities variant, and like a lot of different variants you can play with the original map. So you can play it out a lot of different ways if you get that little expansion. So like my suggestion earlier, to buy the bigger cards in the expansion will give you some other ways to play as well. We personally, in our family, we have Nordic Countries sitting right over there where I can see it. Nordic Countries is kind of a cool little like 2 or 3 player game version of it, where the map's a little tighter. There's not as many routes on it as this. It's a fun way to play. So anyway, it's kind of a different way to play the same mechanic. There's also Europe, which has like some added, and this also, the Europe added mechanics are also in some of the other versions like Nordic Countries, where there's like tunnels and there's ferries, which make things a little more complicated. There's also Markland. There's several map packs on this. So there's a lot of expandability in just this type of game. I personally, if I had to say my preference on this game, I like the game. I think it's a good system. I really enjoy the game a lot, actually. But I would prefer playing Europe to the standard map like this, because this is just a little basic for me. It's a very simple game. That's its strength, that it's simple to pick up and play. But I like the Europe game because it has a lot of variation in how the routes are done, and it has a little bit of a luck element in it. It has an extra strategy of the ferries and different things like that. And then Markland's another one that's a little different. It has like people who ride on your trains, but the theme of the game is that you're riding a train. So I think it gets kind of convoluted if we're building trains or riding trains. Overall, I really do enjoy this game a lot. It has a lot of strengths, and as far as it can show people what games can be, that they can be more than, you know, checkers or Monopoly or Yahtzee. It shows that there's another level of fun that you can have with games, and it's in a pretty simple to teach and play package. I would say this as just a bit of evidence to whether or not this game's worth owning. We've played this game more than any other game, bar none, by far. It was one of our first games we owned, maybe our second game that we owned that was a hobbyist type game as a family, and it's seen a lot of plays. If I had to take all the versions of Ticket to Ride that we own, have owned or own currently, which would be Markland, Europe, and Nordic countries, as well as the iOS apps, and put all those plays together, we're into the hundreds of plays, I would say. So it's got a good repeatability, and I'm somebody who doesn't play a game a lot of times typically. I generally get bored with the game after playing it twice in a week, and then I'll let it sit for a month or so. But this game, I mean, it's not like the most compelling game in the world when we play it, but it's something that you can just get out and play about any time.
Right.
So I'm not saying this is definitely a fit for you, but it's strong at being a simple game to teach that has a lot of replayability and a lot of fun. The ceiling on it is a little low. I mean, like, it's something that once you learn how to play it and master it after playing it a few times, like, there's little tweaks you can do here and there to your strategy, but it's something that, like, on the 50th play, you're going to have it down pat, be a master at it, and have a lot of different ways you can play the game. So there's not, like, a ton of complexity to it. As a weakness, the tiny cards I don't like at all. I've mentioned that like 20 times. So yeah, I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but I hate the tiny cards. Get the big cards.
I think you mentioned that about 5 times earlier.
Yes. What do you think? Any final thoughts on this, Luke?
Not really. Although I have to agree with you on the tiny cards. Now that my hands are getting a little bigger, it's getting a bit irritating.
Yeah. Oh, and I will say this too. I'm probably not going to put the Mom Approved on here, which we've done in some other videos, but this is certainly Mom Approved. This is my wife, who is not a gamer at all, would rather play party games like Categories and stuff like that. I would say, and she may not tell you this because she's going to be a little stubborn or whatever, but she likes this game better than I think any other game. I think it's her favorite game, including party games and whatever else. I think she enjoys this one the most. And I think she enjoys the variants even. I think she likes Europe okay. I think she really likes Nordic countries, and she really, really likes the American map. So this is just a hit with most people. And even like hardcore gamers will play this one. Like Tom Vassell, who's, you know, the godfather of gaming, has this annually in his top 10. And it's because I think he plays it very cutthroat, but you can play it for me too. All right, so enough rambling probably, right?